Welcome back to the show. Check out these headlines, ladies and gentlemen. SoFi gets a national bank license, first ever. We're going to talk about it. When Ripple National Charter Bank license, we'll get into it. And we got this Clarity Act could be days away from passage, ladies and gentlemen. You'll hear more of it. And Evernorth, the real mission, you're going to get it all. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $3.6 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 0.8%. Before we get started, I'm asking everybody, join us in the Patreon, in the Freedom Zone. Please join us there because I can never know when YouTube's going to catch an attitude with me in the channel. After 8 years, every couple of years, they just aimlessly do something to my channel, demonetize it, suspend me, or whatever it is. And I always try to respect the policies in the YouTube world, and I do. And I can never know when it happens to me, but it does happen. So please join me in the Patreon. It is less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. And what I'm looking to do is build this audience where we don't have a middle party in between you and I, so we can communicate the way we need to. And I tell you, I'm super excited to do it because I'm tired of this happening, and it shouldn't happen because I do follow the process and there's no way to really refute it, even though your appeal is just a button click. So any support from you guys is certainly appreciated, gratefully appreciated. Now, looking at this, Bitcoin 103,900 plus, Ethereum 3,400 plus, XRP's 245. We're off 3.3 on the 24. We're up 8.1 on the 7-day. Ranging between 243 and 258. We'll keep an eye on it. XRP Las Vegas is live. Get your tickets today, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the largest XRP conference in the world, April 30th, May 1st, 2026. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the 3,000 people at the conference in Korea, but I understand that that was a different style event, a much different style event there. And shout out to all the South Koreans who are supporting the XRP community all around the world. I want to come visit you someday, and I hope some of you come see our conference in April 30th, May 1st. 169 days away. Get your ticket, ladies and gentlemen. You won't regret it. We have so many big things that have never happened before. Ripple Premier sponsor, Paul Barron, Media Desk. It's going to be out of this world. Get your ticket. Senate passes bill to reopen U.S. government. We love hearing it. And here it is right here where the vote happened. Breaking, it's official. U.S. Senate passes legislation to reopen the federal government. Finally, now we need the House to do the same, and it shouldn't be an issue going over to the House. A lot more bipartisan support there. And then Donald Trump's signature to get back to work. That's where we're going. And here is Chairman Representative French Hill talking to Maria Bartiromo on Mornings with Maria. Take a listen to what he says about how they made progress during September and October on the market structure for digital assets. Then the Clarity Act, which we passed with 78 Democrats in the House back in July, is now subject to intensive work in the Senate, which we know that the Ag Committee, the Dem side committee in the Senate, has released a draft bill of that already, covered that in the first video. They're making strong progress, he says, and I hope we can conclude that in the coming days. Really? Let's talk about it. Let's hear him.
Just unbelievable. Well, look, when the government finally reopens this week, we're expecting Congress can take on the Clarity Act, the long-awaited crypto market regulation bill, bipartisan talks reportedly resuming in the Senate. Mr. Chairman, what can you tell us? Because no doubt a reopening is good for financial services and for crypto as well, right?
You bet, because we have pending before the Congress a National Defense Authorization Bill trying to repair the ag damage to our economy from no farm bill during the Biden administration, no Biden enforcement of the Chinese soybeans deal. We need an ag bill, and that's another reason to open to Congress. You're right. We've made progress during September and October on market structure for digital assets, the Clarity Act, which we passed with 78 Democrats in the House back in July. is now subject of intensive work in the Senate by both Senate Democrats and Republicans on the Banking Committee and on the Senate Agriculture Committee. They're making strong progress, and I hope we can conclude that in coming days. It's been hurt by the shutdown, so I'm looking forward to working with them and getting it across the floor and to President Trump's desk.
Okay.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I like hearing all of this talk. It sounds like we could be days away from this being done. I mean, going back to what Senator Lummis said, that we should be able to get this done and marked up by Thanksgiving, which means it would certainly get passed by before Christmas. So, look, I'm super excited about this. And I mean, obviously, there's still work that has to be done, but this is where we need to go and prepare for market liftoff. 3, 2, 1. And it's not just the market infrastructure bill, it's opening government, right? It's opening government, getting the shutdown ended, getting everyone back to work, then getting the bill passed, then getting the banking charter, then getting the Fed skinny master account, getting all the ETFs approved, which could start this week. We don't know for certain, but I mean, that is the talk of the town, is to look for possibly the Canary ETF for XRP to go live possibly as soon as Thursday. There's no guarantee on that, but eyes peeled, ladies and gentlemen. There's so much fundamentally good news that is on the edge of being completed and passed and signed into law and all issued, all these things that could absolutely, I believe, once we get all of those things, this crypto market will never be the same again. And truthfully, to that point, we're going to see the market move from crypto to all of finance will be tokenized. We won't call it crypto then. Here's Dave Weisberger right here. He says, my take on XRP versus a Bitcoin. Rather than focus on one clip, this goes through the logic. Well, listen, I'm not going to play the whole thing, so you can imagine he's basically saying Bitcoin's better and nothing's like it. Then I'll bring you here
on the side now,
where he talks about XRP. Let's listen to this portion.
When it comes to XRP and every other token, your path to value has to be the same as with an equity. It has to be that the network itself that the token represents will earn revenue, and the token holder will one way or another get a piece of that revenue. That it can be by direct profit sharing. It could be by the fact that tokens get burned as revenue is earned. It could be by you need to own it in order to use the network, in which case it's a user fee. But no matter how you want to look at it, there has to be a reason for that. Now, the numbers of potential revenue are potentially massive. There's no question about that. But the one thing I know from history is that when you have a utility, something that's like a commodity that is switchable, that the companies that control the financial system and the ones that will control the financial system can switch from one network to another. If the cost gets prohibitive, it will restrain the cost of that network and therefore the value of those tokens. And so understanding that, my mental model for XRP isn't that it can't be an investable asset. In fact, it could appreciate a couple of times from here easily without violating any of the things that I'm saying. And to me, that makes it a potentially good investment. Now, I'm not saying it's a great investment. I'm not recommending it. I don't care. I decided that it was worth a position, and so I own a position. But what gets me completely crazy are these idiots who talk about this in terms of $10,000 prices or $1,000 prices. Understand the math. Everyone tries to compare XRP to Bitcoin. There are quite literally 5,000 times more XRP tokens than Bitcoin. So if you're going to divide by a Bitcoin price, even to get to equality, you literally have to divide by 5,000. That means, just for simple math, guys, that if you think XRP is going to approach Bitcoin, that $21 is where you're expecting. So understand what that means. If you think it flips Bitcoin, you're saying 21. So those people calling for 1,000 are calling for something that is, quite frankly, on its face absurd and clearly innumerate or can't do math. So yes, I have a problem with all of these people who say that. I also have a problem in the sense of Ripple announcements being equated with XRP. In the early days of Ripple and XRP, they made it very, very clear. The Ripple executive team was out virtually every week at every conference saying Ripple and XRP are not the same thing. One is a token, one represents an operational business. Well, that's still true. The only difference is now that they've decided to get into prime brokerage, which I think is a brilliant move, by the way, that they need the XRP on their balance sheet to be robust because that's what gives them their advantage, the balance sheet. Because prime brokerage, after all, is a financing business where what they do is you use your balance sheet to make profit by providing leverage to your clients on a risk adjusted basis. And you provide software for them to do so.
Well, really quickly, I got to jump in here. What Dave does not know is they do not put the value of XRP on their balance sheet. The escrow is counted as zero on their balance sheet. Let's keep going.
They bought Hidden Road, they bought custodians, they bought other components. They're building what could be a very interesting business. It's one of the biggest businesses for Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. So there is a lot to be made by Ripple, the operational company. XRP, the ledger, they need it to not go down. They don't need it to go up, although they would like it to go up, obviously. They don't need it to go up. What they need to do is be able to operate their business in a cost-effective manner. So once again, if the price of XRP goes up too much, they're, just like everybody else, going to be forced a little bit to switch. They're not going to subsidize it for very long. Sure, they'll subsidize it for a little while because if the price goes up, it makes their balance sheet that much more impressive.
Again, they do not carry the value of XRP escrow on their balance sheet.
But you need to understand that dynamic in play.
He needs to understand the dynamic that he's portraying here as fact, which is not fact. The XRP escrow is currently listed as zero in value on the balance sheet. Now, that could change. That could change. And we find out how much is earmarked to other governments and countries around the world that this dumbass doesn't have a clue about. But the reality is they do that. And we know that they do that. I've known it for years, and we've had it confirmed by David Schwartz that they earmark and issue pre-allocated option contracts to other banks, entities, governments, and countries. So this guy, you know what I mean, is running with his own story here. It's halfway right. But why am I showing it to you? I'm showing it to you because I hold Bitcoin and XRP as well as other assets with utility. And what is absolutely laughable is how every Bitcoin maxi can't and won't acknowledge that the four Satoshis were interviewed by the Department of Homeland Security agent Rana Sayad. Why is it so terrifying to Michael Saylor and other Bitcoin maxis that the identity be known? It's an Achilles heel waiting to snap. And the SHA-256 algo that is the heart of Bitcoin is patented by the NSA. But they want us all to believe some fat kid in his mom's basement who doesn't like to get up early and work made it. Now, for me, if the U.S. government adopts Bitcoin into the U.S. strategic reserve, which would be great for our portfolios, that will confirm for me that Bitcoin was created by a U.S. three-letter agency because this president, a nationalist, would never allow an unknown identity to a human-built software program to be in a U.S. strategic reserve without knowing if the identity of the creator could be a bad actor like North Korea, China, etc. Bitcoin isn't superior. It had free, unobstructed paths for years without regulatory opposition. And at 21 million total supply, it may be that Bitcoin was created by a three-letter agency to conflate the price to help offset the U.S. debt. Another coin could be where Bitcoin was if it had received that favor too. It's the equivalent of the first smartphone, and if the U.S. government doesn't adopt it, that's exactly what its value may end up being. For a community that shouted down the banks and the U.S. dollar for years and years, at the very least, Bitcoin maxis are very conflicted people. Wall Street has literally hijacked Bitcoin with the ETFs, and it only gets more controlled over time from here. U.S. digital asset bond issuance will be introduced for Bitcoin, XRP, ADA, Solana, and other assets if we get the reserves. Not to mention, the largest miners have great power, just like oil producers. So here's to the U.S. government adoption, because if not, prepare for the dump of a lifetime. Eat that, Dave, because that's the truth. If you don't get that kind of level of adoption, Bitcoin is done. Write it down. And here's where the world's actually going. Former Ripple employee Robbie Mitchnick, now the head of digital assets at BlackRock, tokenization has broken the paradigm that forced you to choose between yield and liquidity. Tokenization isn't coming, it's happening now. I don't need to play it. That's Robbie Mitchnick, who used to be at Ripple, helped design the XRP calculator for value along with Susan Athey, and then went to work to head up digital assets at BlackRock. When are we going to see the BlackRock ETF, ladies and gentlemen? When do we get that? And here is SoFi announcing they become the first national chartered bank to allow Bitcoin and crypto trading. I say SoFi becomes a national charter bank offering crypto trading. Ripple next up to receive a nationally chartered bank license too. That's what we need to see. They are the first ever, and congratulations to them. Here's Ashish Burla. I'm going to sit down and play this for you. We love to see it too. Times Square lit up, going public. NASDAQ 2026, Q1's the plan. I'm excited for it. Let's hear a quick piece of this clip with Ashish sitting down with Tony from Thinking Crypto. Shout out to both of them.
So let's talk Evernorth. To give an overview of this company, what's the mission and why XRP was chosen as the digital asset?
Yeah, so the mission is really to make it easier for folks to buy, hold, and get exposure to XRP. It's for us, Tony. We've been in this space a long time. We know how to manage wallets. We know how to manage cryptocurrencies. But for the large part of the world that it's too difficult, for big institutions that want exposure to this asset class in XRP, that's too complicated. So the idea behind Evernorth is like, let's make it as easy as buying Tesla stock in your brokerage account, your E-Trade account, your Fidelity account, your Robinhood account. Just like you buy that stock, you can buy XRPN, the ticker for Evernorth, and you get exposure to XRP as an asset class. And we don't stop there. You also get to participate in the strategies that we'll develop at Evernorth, like yield strategies. And with those yield strategies, a portion of that yield that we generate will go back into the treasury. So we'll use that yield to buy more XRP and add to the treasury. And the goal here for Evernorth shareholders is to maximize XRP per share. And why did I choose XRP? I'll answer that question. Well, one, I really believe in this future that the financial world is going to be reformed, and there's going to be a revolution, and that revolution is going to start on a blockchain, and it's spurred by that innovation around the blockchain. And early on, the XRP creators decided that they wanted to build a blockchain that was optimized for financial use cases. This was back in 2012. Maybe that's mainstream now, but this is back in 2012 to create an ecosystem, to create a technology that's optimized for payments, that's optimized for tokenized assets. Today, we call those real world assets or RWAs, but the ability to have these equities, real estate, and so forth, tokenized and available for the world on a blockchain. That's what the XRP ledger and supporting technologies are good for. So, I decided XRP, obviously, with my, history, that made a lot of sense. But I also noticed, Tony, that there's no digital asset treasury of significance around XRP. And that made it a no-brainer.
No doubt about it. And then he's asked by Tony, like, is this like modeling after MicroStrategy too? And I think that it is. I think the difference here is Ashish Burla, if we look at his background, as he referenced in here, he was the general manager of RippleNet. So he knows exactly what the institutional demand level is going to be. That's, I believe, if I had, now obviously I'm not an executive and I'm not groomed corporately and all of this, but in my eyes, I'm like, well, we know exactly why he started Evernorth. because he came from a place with dealing with institutions, and he obviously feels that they're going to need great exposure to XRP. So henceforth, Evernorth, right? Sometimes the math is as simple as 1 + 1 is 2, right? But then again, things haven't played out. So we do have to watch to see how this takes off, right? That's the thing. And I'm excited about it. And I actually even picked some up on my Fidelity account too. So super excited about that as well. Listen, it's not financial advice from me or anyone else. These are exciting times. We have so much that could be unfolding in just the next handful of weeks. And how exciting is all of that, knowing how far we've all come. Stay safe out here, ladies and gentlemen. It's not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.